I'm Richard Morris from Canberra, Australia. In 2014, I was very sick with complications from type 2 diabetes. After taking the dietary advice of the Australian Diabetes Association, I became more diabetic.
God, I hate that.
Yeah, it's not fun. I did some research, though, which led me to the ketogenic diet. Spoiler alert, I reversed my type 2 diabetes by drastically reducing my carbohydrate intake and increasing my consumption of healthy fats. In 2016, I was determined to help my buddy Carl by showing him what I did and the science behind it.
Hey, y'all. I'm Carl Franklin from the United States. I also used to be a type 2 diabetic, but not quite as severely as Richard.
Yeah.
I devoured all the information Richard sent me, and after a mutual friend went keto to address prostate cancer, I also went on the ketogenic diet. That was in February 2016. By April, I was in full swing reversing my diabetes.
We're not doctors and we don't give medical advice. We're just a couple of dudes on the internet who reverse their diabetes by following a ketogenic diet.
And we just want to share our experiences and what we know about the science behind the ketogenic diet.
Yeah, so we started this podcast to chronicle Carl's journey and to provide some solid information to those curious about this dietary lifestyle.
Right. And we have over 200 podcast episodes. In fact, this is 223.
Nice.
And you know, some of those have been downloaded hundreds of thousands of times. Mm-hmm. We also have a community. After failing miserably on Facebook, we moved our online community to the Ketogenic forums, where tens of thousands of people share their experiences.
We also founded an annual ketogenic festival called Keto Fest. Carl and I are both software developers, and as such, we found ourselves at software conferences several times a year. We tend to gravitate towards the conversations that happen in the hallways at conferences. Sure, the talks are great, but it's the community that we enjoy the most.
So Keto Fest was started as a conference to discuss the latest research of ketogenic diets, but also a festival celebrating the ketogenic lifestyle. We're currently planning Keto Fest for October 2022, so if you'd like to be notified when tickets are available, please add your name to the list at ketofest.com.
So, Carl, what is a ketogenic diet?
Well, I'm glad you asked. It's a diet where instead of burning sugar and starch for energy, our cells prefer to burn fat. Mm-hmm. That produces molecules called ketones that our bodies use for fuel.
Right. Our primary molecular fuels are glucose, which we make from carbohydrates, and fatty acids, which we make from fat. Our cells have two modes. In one, they burn glucose and make fat, and in the other, they burn fatty acids and make ketones.
But you don't have to eat a high-fat diet to be ketogenic, right?
When you're starting out, you may have to, but then in a few weeks, as you become better adapted to burning fat for energy, when all of your calories come from fatty acids, the amount you need to eat becomes coupled to satiety, which integrates not only the variable amount of energy your body needs to run every day, but also the amount of fat that can be drawn down from storage.
So how much do we need to restrict carbs in order to get ourselves into that state?
That depends. Some of us who are metabolically disordered need to get below 20 grams a day. Somebody who's quite metabolically flexible can eat as much as 100 grams a day.
How about other nutrients like protein, minerals, and essential cofactors like vitamins and essential fats?
Well, you need from 1 to 1.5 grams of protein for every kilogram of lean mass, and beyond that, you just waste excess by turning it into energy instead of using fatty acids. As for other essential nutrients, if you're eating fatty meats or eggs plus leafy green vegetables, you're going to get most of those because the organisms that made those foods had already concentrated those essential cofactors.
Ketogenic diets are varied and delicious.
Oh, yeah.
They can be vegetarian or carnivore, home-cooked or takeout, haute cuisine.
Haute cuisine!
Or just bacon and eggs.
As long as your carbohydrates are low enough.
And if you're an absolute beginner, check out our Starting Keto episode for more information at start.2keto.com. So, man, how you been? Merry Christmas, first of all.
Merry Christmas. It's 5 minutes past midnight on Christmas morning.
In Australia.
In Australia. Yeah, it's still Christmas Eve in Connecticut, right?
It's 5 past 8 a.m. on December 24th.
Right.
So, yeah, we are quite literally on opposite sides of the world.
Here we are.
Oh, I'm sorry. For the flat earthers, Richard's on the underside, and I'm on the top side.
Didn't you know that Australians are all crisis actors? That nobody can have that actual accent. I mean, that's just impossible.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've been fine. It's Christmas time in Australia, which is middle of summer.
Right.
So all the things that come. We have had the longest day of the year.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like still sunny at 9 p.m. in the evening.
Yep.
And sun starts coming up just before 5 a.m. in the morning. So it's lovely. Yeah. No, I've been good. How about you?
It's been a good week. I played a gig last Saturday with my band.
Ah, nice.
And we had a record turnout. The mayor was there and like a bunch of friends and family. And, well, it was just one of those magic moments in the middle of all this chaos, that 9 or 10 musicians can get together and really put it out for a big audience. It was great.
Nice. Did you have any COVID issues? I mean, any COVID compliance issues?
Yeah, actually, we did, but it was after the fact. First of all, nobody was wearing masks. Well, very few people were wearing masks at the gig. I guess the establishment just expected people to act responsibly.
Yeah.
And then after the gig, the drummer, who was a stand-in drummer, because my regular drummer is still recovering from back surgery. So the stand-in drummer notifies us the next day that he is positive.
Ah.
So now we're all screwed up because we want to have dinner with our families on Christmas and yada, yada. So I got a test and it was negative.
Did you do a home test or you did the
Yeah, I
PCR?
did both.
Cool.
My brother Jay was negative. Other people in the band were negative. So we felt like we were in the clear there.
Yeah.
And I got a booster yesterday.
Oh, nice. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So you may not have needed one because so they've shown that that people who have COVID and that at least 16 weeks later get one shot of any of the vaccines have super immunity to just about all of the coronaviruses.
Wow, great.
They have immunity to SARS-1, which was the virus that came out around in 2003. So.
Yeah, I remember hearing about SARS-1 and this was from Dr. John Campbell on YouTube.
Yeah.
That people who had SARS-1 16 years later still had immunity to SARS-1.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which shows that no matter how you get immunity, whether you get infected or you get vaccines or you get infected and get vaccines, we know that, well, we can speculate that at least 17 years later, we're still going to have protection against severe disease. We may still get infected, but we'll have low antibodies because, I mean, the body can't make antibodies to every pathogen it ever meets. Otherwise, your blood supply would have no room for blood. It'd be full of immunoglobulins.
So we should put up those links to that science for people who are curious, because this is kind of like critical time.
So normally what happens when you meet a tall, dark stranger epitope, a pathogen, in the night, normally what happens is that your immune system makes an immune response. Yeah. And so it starts over 3 or 4 days to generate antibodies against that particular pathogen. Yeah. And those antibodies are able to stop it from getting into cells. Yeah. But that response is really the short phase response for, oh my God, there's something weird here. We need to make things to respond to it. But at the same time, we specialize a cell called the memory B cell, which then waits for the next time we're going to come up against that pathogen, and it makes a second load of antibodies. So, but that takes, as I say, 3 or 4 days to go from, here's the thing, to now we have enough antibodies to stop it getting into cells. But we also make T cells, and the T cells are killer cells, and their job is to find cells of ours that have been infected and to shut them down, to run their programmatic suicide program. Right. The cool thing about this is that if you don't come up against this pathogen for a couple of weeks, what your body does is it automatically down-regulates the antibody response, so that it can be ready for the next thing. But while it's doing that, it goes your memory B cells and T cells that have the memory of this thing, the memory of this pathogen, and they're ready for it. The B cells are going to make antibodies, and the T cells are going to shut down cells that are reproducing it.
Yeah, and they go to sleep.
Well, actually, they don't go to sleep. What happens is they undergo a process called somatic hypermutation, which is so they essentially roll the dice to make daughter copies of themselves that are slightly different. And so essentially it's a really fast way of evolving. Oh, wow. Because what's going to happen is you meet a virus, you manage to get rid of it. Yeah. you don't meet it again for another 6 months. What's going to happen in those 6 months is it might have slightly changed some things. And so while the virus is off there slightly changing some things, producing mutations, our immune system is also mutating our response.
Wow.
It's called affinity maturation. So what that means is that when it comes back, when that virus comes back and it's different, we already have tools to be able to respond to that difference. So
that is so cool. I did not know that.
It's extremely fun.
I always just pictured it as, okay, your arsenal is sort of on call.
Yeah.
You know, they're just sort of waiting. You don't have active bullets in the air.
Yeah.
Right? But you know, when the time comes and a response is necessary, they wake up and antibodies come out.
They do.
So that's really all I knew about it. But that is really fascinating what you just described there.
So that's why we need boosters, because out of an abundance of caution to make sure everybody had high levels of antibodies, they gave us the 2 doses 3 weeks apart.
Yeah.
Now, if they'd given those doses like 12 to 16 weeks apart, that would be it. We wouldn't need any more boosters, nothing else. But because they didn't, we haven't had that time, for affinity maturation. So the booster that you just had today, it's basically curing the affinity maturation that you've been doing over the past 16 weeks.
So, Richard, did you get a test as well?
Yeah. So I had a lab Christmas party last Wednesday, and then I was notified, and so we have to check in with the VR code everywhere we go. And if somebody who was at that event or at that location at the time that you were there comes up with a positive test, you get notified to say, you could be a casual contact. I mean, it was in a large bar, and we were outside in the veranda, so it's highly unlikely. So anyway, I did a home. The good news is I'm not pregnant. I did a home pregnancy test thing, which is like, so it's a really cool gadget that you can make these things with an inkjet printer.
Really?
It's actually not. Yeah, it's not complicated science. Yeah, special kinds of inks. You have to. You basically use antibodies. So look, if you know any chemical engineers who are experts in inkjet printers who are looking around for something to do during the crisis, they could be doing that.
Wow.
They could be spending time working on inkjet printers, and so it's just 4 different inks. And
so do you put a drop of blood in there and see if it turns color or something, or?
No, so you stick a swab up your nose the same way the regular test, and then you stick that in a solution in a solute, which is it's a salty water essentially, saline, and then you put 4 drops of that in a little well on the plate. And then what that does is the actual what's underneath the test is a piece of filter paper.
Okay.
What happens is when you put 4 drops of liquid on a piece of filter paper, you know what happens. The paper gets eventually wetter and wetter as the front of the solute moves along.
Right.
Now that solute's carrying everything that was in my nose along with it.
Yeah.
And it passes through a line of inkjet printed antibodies, and it carries them along with it.
Oh.
And then when it passes the 2 locations for the test and the control, the moving antibody has a gold particle attached to it, and it stops on those lines because it hooks up with another antibody that's actually bound to the filter paper. And so it's a very simple thing. You can make these for a couple of cents. So
wow.
We have to buy them for $10. So
right.
South Korea were giving these things away in the mail, which is, and I think the US is now mailing.
We're going to be doing that,
which is awesome. We should have been doing that.
I agree.
We should have been doing that from the get go. But anyway, so that's my little bit of a COVID experience this week.
Well, we know it's a long intro, and there's good reason for it, though. It's Christmas time, and Richard, Carrie, and myself appeared on Dan Greef's UK Low Carb podcast, and that is being shown today. It's video. It's the video version of what you're about to hear. And what we did is we took the audio from that, and that is going to be our show today.
Yeah.
So without any further ado, let's talk to Dan.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas, everybody, and it's a really wonderful show because I'm spending Christmas today with the Keto Dudes. So I'm joined by Carl Franklin in his home, although he's actually outside in the snow, with Richard Morris and Carrie Brown. Welcome to UK Low Carb and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas!
Fantastic. It's bloody hell. I can't believe we're all together again to spend such a special day together. Carl, you're out in the middle of the snow there on your screen. I mean, you must be freezing. Are you okay?
Yeah, I am freezing. You can tell by the way my teeth are chattering and stuff, but it's really amazing how none of the snow is sticking to me.
It's magic, isn't it? Richard, on the other hand, you look really warm. I'm confused considering we're all in the same house together, but on Zoom, as you do in COVID times.
In the pandemic, no, I'm actually it's a balmy weather here for some reason in this room.
What temperature has it been today, Richard?
Mid-20s.
Mid-20s. That's not too bad, is it?
It's Celsius for you Americans.
Celsius.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. In Fahrenheit, that's a million under. I don't know. I don't do Fahrenheit. But
there's no Americans listening here, Carl.
Yeah, that's true.
UK low carb, so.
Yeah, sorry. And
Carrie.
And Carrie, what about yourself? What's it like in your room of the house?
It's perfect.
Perfect.
You're in the kitchen, aren't you?
72 degrees.
That's really hot.
I'm in the office.
Okay. I don't even know what that means. I don't know if that's hot or cold or you're freezing right now. It's perfect. Okay.
It's perfect.
It's not
about
too
21
hot,
degrees centigrade,
cold.
maybe. Yeah.
And I'm in the office, not the kitchen.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's the office. Right. Okay. So we're in the same house together. We're spending Christmas Day together. And I thought we'd do this episode just about what our Christmas Day is going to look like. Okay. And we can play some parlor games as well and just learn a bit more about each other and then have a bit of fun. So are you up for that, guys?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start off then first with any traditions you have in your family. So Carl, what's your tradition that you do in your family?
We have traditions where we get up early. We drink heavily all day and get mad at each other and slam doors and run off huffy in all directions. And
That's
then
fantastic.
just go out for Chinese, but everybody to a different Chinese restaurant by themselves.
A bit like this Christmas we're spending together in different rooms of the house or outside on Zoom. We don't want to actually do this in person. Yeah,
that is actually a sacred American tradition. So we're just falling in line.
You saying it's a wonderful life isn't true. I mean, I thought that's what all you Americans did every time was talk to angels and, okay.
Actually, one of our traditions is Kelly and I watching that movie. It's American. It's a Wonderful Life. Not It's an American Life. That's this American. No, never mind. It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah.
It is.
And I had never seen the movie before until Kelly and I were married and she said, this is my tradition. So that became our, when we wrap gifts and stuff. Now all our kids are out of the house. So there's no more traditional gift wrapping and all that stuff. So Christmas is very low key around here, but we do eat well.
That's the main thing. We'll come on to food as well. I find that with traditions anyway, that all you have to do is do it once. And if someone remembers it the next year, that's a tradition we've always done. And it is that way forever and ever and ever. But we have to always burn the turkey. No, that was just a one-off, surely. Why do we do that every year, guys? This is miserable. Let's go and get Chinese. I find that being ketogenic, it's very hard for me to bring forward food traditions from the family, right? From the past.
You have to make new ones.
Yeah. So you really do. That's right, Richard. You have to make new ones. And I told my kids, I'm like, okay, well, we're creating new Franklin family traditions here. So
they're not there anymore. So how did that go?
Well, they come over for Christmas dinner.
Oh, they do come back. Okay, yeah. Just before the Chinese. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So what traditions do you have now then? What do you have now then as a tradition, Carl?
Well, we don't really have a traditional dinner, but it usually involves beef of some kind.
Nice.
I'm sure you guys can relate to that. So this year I thought I would do a smoked rib roast.
Ooh, we'll come on to that later as well, because that sounds flipping amazing. Right. Before we go any further, then I need to find about other traditions. So Richard and Carrie, is it kind of, you pick up and you take it as you find it kind of day, or do you have traditions that you'd like to stick to?
Well, I am not doing my tradition this year. My tradition for the last 15 years has been to pack up the car and leave around the 18th or 19th and go somewhere that I've never been before and photograph things for 10 days and then come back when it's all over. So I typically don't even know which day Christmas Day is, but I do know that December 26th is the absolute best day in the whole year to go to national parks because literally nobody else is there. I once spent the 26th of December in the Painted Desert National Park in Arizona, and I literally didn't see another human all day. It was fantastic.
Wow, there you go. Fantastic.
So yeah, so I'm all about the with Richard and Carl is like make new traditions. It looks very, very different from the Christmas tradition that I had growing up when I was in England with parents and. My life is so different to that, that I just decided that, and I don't have a family. I don't have, downwards, sideways, anywhere. So I know, but I just decided 15 years ago that I was just going to do the thing that makes me happiest over the winter holiday. And it just so happened that because I used to work for Microsoft, so the whole of Microsoft literally shut down for 2 weeks. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to take off. And so that became my tradition, was exploring new places and photographing landscapes, which is my favorite thing to do, and going to new things and finding new places to eat. But there was nothing Christmassy about it.
Wow, fantastic. I mean, I think you're right in a way. In a way, if you have too many traditions, you almost have an expectation of how Christmas has to be. And you have to be flexible to realizing things change and what do you really want to do. I mean, I spent Christmas in India one year, and that was a different experience because, having a Maharaja burger at McDonald's that year, this is before low carb. And
wait a minute,
it's a real thing. Yeah. And
with
then I went,
beef?
No, with chicken. It was a chicken burger.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say.
Do you still have that pass as a burger? I mean, that's how they sold it to me. And then I had a Pizza Hut in the evening. I mean, this is definitely my carb days. And that is the most depressing Christmas I've ever had, really, in all honesty. But you know what? It's just wherever you are and you want to be there. I mean, I wanted to be with my family, and the next year I was, and it's much better. So just the way it works out.
If I was in India at Christmas time, I'd probably get some butter chicken or something.
You say that.
That cardamom and those spices that are in that
can
masala.
I just explain, by the way? I'm
very Christmassy to me.
I'm not really like a complete Philistine or anything. I'd been in India by that point for 2 months. So I tried everything. I'd been sick everywhere. I'd had diarrhea everywhere. We won't go into that now.
Well, that's a genuine experience. So
so I really wanted Christmas to be as bump free as possible and as smooth as possible. I was going for my Maharaja burger and my curried pizza, and that was it. So I wanted to go for safety first that day. And I think also it's just the familiarity of just trying something that's a bit more like home food. Because I love when I'm in a country, I'm not one of these Brits who, well, Carrie knows these types, who turn up to a country and basically say, I want a cup of tea and I want bacon and eggs. Well, actually, I do that now. What am I saying? But yeah, they want fish and chips. They want to have a pie and mash.
And warm beer.
And a warm beer on the south of the Spanish coastline. I'm not that sort of Brit. I like to experience the food of the country. But by Christmas, I was very much ready just to have something simple and not have diarrhea. So anyway, right, let's carry on.
Anyway,
Richard, any traditions you have that don't involve toilet time?
Well, we don't have kids, so I mean, Christmas is mostly around kids. So generally, what'll happen is we'll alternate. Either we'll go visit Julie's family, or we'll go visit my family, and in a 4-year block, we'll be at home for two of the years, and one of them will visit us. So this year, Julie's going to visit her family. I'm not going because I'm working on some stuff for school. So I'm just going to be working at home and enjoying the regular Christmas traditions of Australia, which is really delaying gratification until Boxing Day, because Boxing Day is kind of like our version of Thanksgiving in Australia. So Australia, it's kind of weird. We have traditions from our English heritage of having a lot of traditional Christmas foods for baked ham, a large goose or a turkey, and this food is not really appropriate for the middle of summer. I'm not sure if you realise it, but the Christmas in Australia is the middle of summer.
You're just downstairs, mate. What are you talking about?
It's a shrimp on the barbie.
When I said downstairs, I didn't mean the other hemisphere, the Earth, but okay.
And so in our family, we've tried to buck my family. We tried to buck some of the trends and have a shrimp sandwich. Well, back when I was a carb eater, I'd have a shrimp sandwich, shrimp mayonnaise, and on a hoagie roll.
Po' boy.
And a po' boy, yeah. And but essentially what we do is on Boxing Day, we get all of the food that we had left over from Christmas Day, and everyone eats leftovers and then sits on the couch watching sport on TV until they pass out. And so that's kind of the traditional Thanksgiving experience in America, from my experience of living there for 8 years. So it's not so much that because we don't have kids, there's no need to set new traditions and the like. But it's kind of strange in Australia because everybody else is celebrating. We even have Christmas trees with fake snow on them, and we have people will put in their yards, blow up snowmen and all the traditional Christmassy things from the Northern Hemisphere, which have no meaning in Australia.
Christmas is about pretending, so you might as well just take it to the obvious.
Yeah, may as well.
I'd say we don't have any snow in this country. I don't know about in the east coast of America right now, but there's no snow here ever, really. And maybe a couple of days in February or January, and that's about it. And yet people do the same here with like fake snow and all the rest of it. I just find it weird. This kind of, I don't know where, is it like Dickens maybe? It's a bit of Dickens, a bit of kind of American Disney, sort of all mixed together. And we've got this really Northern Hemisphere kind of Norwegian experience of Christmas or whatnot. And it's so not really experienced by most of us in that way, but we all aspire to it. Even if you're in a hot country in the middle of summer, it's just crazy, isn't it?
That would be the ideal, being, in snow.
I used to, when I was lecturing at South Bank University at the baking, I did a cake decorating class, and I had a student, and it was right before Christmas, and we were making Christmas cakes and we were decorating Christmas cakes, and I'm doing the rounds and helping people out and seeing what they're doing. And this gal from, I think it was Nigeria, she'd done her Christmas cake blue because she had never seen snow.
Wow.
And so she didn't know. Yeah, well, she didn't know that snow only came in white. And so it was just one of those kind of really cultural, like, whoa, moments for me, that because, you can get so insular in that you think like your experience is everybody else's experience. So she did a blue Christmas cake.
I can bring that back to India. I have a friend who was born in India and he's in the US now. A software developer, and he was up in New London. We were working on a video together. This was years ago, maybe 10 years ago. And I made a reference to Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. And he goes, "What's that?"
Really?
I said, "The Beatles." Who?
No way.
And it just never occurred to me that there were people on Earth who had never heard of the Beatles.
Who are not like under the age of 20. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he was my age, so.
So I remember being in India that Christmas, there were people going around in the kind of, a bit like your hat there, Carl, dressed as Santa Claus. And it was really hot. Well, actually, it was a Delhi. So Delhi is quite cold at the time, but it was still a lot hotter than it would be in the UK. And I was kind of like, this is weird. Like, is this weird cultural Coca-Cola character that's brought out for the Northern Hemisphere is in India? It's just very odd.
Well, the only reason I wore this is because if I didn't have a hat, these days my morning hair is looking like Heat Miser. So I'm not even going to take it off. I mean,
I was going to say,
really
please do. Take it off. Take it. Okay, we'll leave that then. We'll leave that. That's what
friends call me Heat Miser.
Put it on. Put it on. Put it on.
I'm going to throw dollar bills at Carl until he starts putting on clothes.
Put it on. Put it all on.
Anyway, good. Actually, just a little quick thing I'll say there. So in Cambridge, where I live, we have the American cemetery for the airmen who didn't make it back to the States. They passed away. Either they got back and they died from their flights in the Second World War, or maybe they were, whatever happened to them. So I actually was working with a Chinese group of students who came to the UK. They then did a tour of Europe, and I was with them for a month. It was an amazing job. And I thought, you know what, as we're in Cambridge, my hometown, let's take them to the cemetery. And we turned up, and it was this beautiful moment where there were 40 Chinese students, and these airmen from the States had all come together. They're in the same B-17 Flying Fortress in the Second World War. They survived the war. And they came over for a reunion in Cambridge to go and see the graves of their fallen colleagues. And I thought we could be stepping on over some lines here, because there's 40 teenagers, and there's like these 8 airmen. So anyway, we went over and one of them came to talk to us and said, we'd love to talk to your students if you like. So I was like, as a history geek, I was asking them everything about the missions they went on, about daytime raids to the Americans, British nighttime raids and how that affected them, etc. And this whole area was like, basically the Americans were based all over this area. Afterwards, the Chinese teachers, not the students, the Chinese teachers said, what on earth were they talking about? And I said, oh, I'm so sorry I didn't explain well enough that these are airmen in the Second World War. They didn't know, these are teachers, bear in mind, they didn't realize that America and Britain fought Germany in the Second World War. For them, the Second World War was solely Japan and China. Because that's the narrative that they know. Even though in our countries, you'd hope people would know that as well, especially Japan and America, you think. But as far as they were concerned, it was just a Chinese-Japanese war. And there was this little sideline thing going on, but they didn't know anything about it. And there was me thinking, what an opportunity. They didn't know even it happened.
It's the war of Japanese aggression. Yeah, an invasion, and actually, it was a defining point in Chinese history as to how they saw themselves, which affects them to this day. Anyway, that's got quite heavy. Happy Christmas! Merry Christmas.
Let's keep it light. Now.
So I have to say that because my tradition kind of got cancelled this year, because I'm here. We're on a road trip. I was supposed to be in Texas, but I have a very dear friend who had lost both of her parents to heart attacks this year. And so I decided I can't be jollying around Texas when I have someone in pain. So I cancelled my trip and I'm here. But I had to start all over because I had nothing. 15 years ago, I gave away all my Christmas stuff, all my decorations and all of that. So I'm kind of relearning how to do Christmas in a house.
Well, Carrie, I'm glad we can spend it with you in that case. And we've made your Christmas complete. You might not agree, but I think we have. You might say, just leave me alone. But that is...
Get out.
I think COVID means that Christmas is going to be different for a lot of people, just like last year, isn't it?
Yeah.
In this country right now, which obviously I'm in America, but in the UK right now, it's very tense with the messages we're getting about Omicron and should we have Christmas, shouldn't we? And of course, the Prime Minister was caught having Christmas parties last year, apparently. Well, certainly a lot of people in his house was, although he didn't know about it. So it's an interesting time. Let's just say that.
There's a photo actually just come out in the past day, I think.
5 days, because it's Christmas now, Richard, don't forget.
Right, of course, yes. He was having cheese and crackers on the terrace at the Downing Street
with real social distancing going on there. Yeah. So let's leave that. Again, it's Christmas, guys. We talked about the Second World War and massacre. Let's move. We've had Carl's hair. Let's keep it light, okay?
We haven't mentioned Nazi.
Hey, you don't watch it. I'm going to take off my hat again, man.
No, let's move on. So a very British tradition, of course, is cracker pulling. I don't know if you do that in the States or Australia.
In Australia, we do.
Not in the States, really.
Okay, one of the key things in a cracker is that you have to have a bad joke inside. So I thought I'll tell you a bad joke and see if you like it. And if you...
First of all, for my American friends, a cracker is not a cracker. When he meant cracker pulling, it's not something you do in the kitchen.
Oh, my word.
It's a little cylinder that's wrapped with ribbons and paper and stuff, and you pull it apart and it goes snap, bang.
Yes,
crackers.
yes. I forget
Carrie's
we're separate. We're different cultures. I kind of forget that. Yeah. And you pull it, and of course it rips. And like you say, there's some stuff inside it. You get a gift, a hat, and a joke. And of course, the jokes are always bad. That's just a Christmas cracker joke by nature.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there we go. Carrie's got one there. So you just pull that bad boy, and then
demonstrate, or is that for later? Oh
no, gotta save it.
Save it. Oh yeah,
gotta save it. Gotta save it for the lamb shanks.
It's your one Christmas tradition that you got to keep hold of, really. Yeah. Anyway, so I've got a joke for you guys, and if you want to come up with your own joke in the show, if you feel so moved to do so, then go for it. So my joke is as follows. Dramatic pause. Good. What do you call a line of dolls?
I don't know.
A barbecue.
No.
That's one for you, Richard.
Put another shrimp on it.
I have a joke, a Christmas joke.
Go on then, Carl.
Yeah. My Christmas joke is: what do Santa's reindeer do on their downtime? They go down to the Elks Club and blow a few bucks.
Oh, it's a family show. Keep it moving.
I didn't say anything wrong. It's the English language. I don't know what's wrong with your mind, but.
Okay, good. And on that bombshell, should we just move on? So what are we eating, guys? That's what it comes down to first. Let's talk about the meal we're going to have later today. So what recipes do you have? It doesn't matter if we've got like a bit of a crossover with regards to main course or whatnot. But for me, if I was going to have a vegan Christmas, it'd be a total disaster. So I'm expecting meat to be a factor here, even in dessert maybe. So let's go to you first. Richard, what's your recipe?
So my recipe is salt crusted pork belly.
Ooh,
and this, So what you want to do is you want to talk to your butcher and get a pork belly that is as even as possible. So it has the same height right across the slab. So it's basically a square slab about 1 foot by 1 foot. And you don't want one end to be really meaty and the other end to be really thin, because it doesn't work as well. And the whole recipe is going to take about 1 hour and 40 minutes to cook, and it's going to take about 10 minutes to prep up. And what you want to do is you want to get a tray, an oven tray, and line it with aluminium foil, and put a rack on top of it, and then put the pork belly skin side down on top of the rack. And what we're going to do is we're going to put some Chinese 5-spice on the meat side of the pork belly. And so we sprinkle a bit of Chinese 5-spice on and pat it on. Then we turn the pork belly over, so it's now skin side up, Chinese 5-spice meat down. And what we're going to do is we're going to pour a whole bunch, about a cup and a half of salt on it. And you're going to get a knife and level it across the pork belly. So it's going to end up having probably 1/4 of an inch of salt, 1/4 to 1/2 inch of salt right across the entire pork belly. And the point of this is to try and dry out the pork belly, because what we're going to do is we're going to steam the bottom. So you put a bit of water in the bottom of the tray.
Richard,
and
you mentioned skin, so you have a skin on pork belly, because not all pork belly comes with skin on.
All pork belly that's good should come with skin.
I found out the hard way that the Costco pork belly doesn't have skin on it.
Yeah, I've seen that.
My mouth just went dry thinking about that.
Yes. Yes. So,
Anyway.
So what you're going to do is you're going to preheat your oven to 180 Celsius or 350 Fahrenheit. And what we're going to do is we're going to steam the bottom of the meat, the bottom of the pork belly, while keeping the salt on top, which keeps it all dry. And so you're going to cook it at 180 Celsius for about an hour, and that's going to essentially cook the pork belly from the bottom up. And then when it's done, what will happen is the pork belly will have shrunk a little bit, but the salt will be leaving a little ledge over the side of the pork belly. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take it out of the oven and crank the oven up to 250 Celsius. And then, and what's that in Fahrenheit? Probably 465 Fahrenheit.
A lot.
470 Fahrenheit. Yeah. Top of it to the hottest the oven will go.
It's Mark 9.
Mark 9, gas Mark 9, right? And so then you're gonna tip out the water, because we don't want the water anymore. We're going to try and cook the pork belly skin so that we get crackling from one end of the pork belly to the other.
Yeah.
And so essentially what you're going to do is you're going to take the salt off, and you can just get a knife underneath the salt and you can pull the entire thing off as a slab, and then just brush as much as there's any salt flakes left on there, brush it off, and you're going to put it in the oven for 45 minutes. And then when you take it out of the oven, you should have a thick crackling across the entire slab.
Now you're
Let it sit for 10 minutes on a board, and then turn it upside down so it's skin side down, flesh side up, and use a cleaver to cut it into 1-inch cubes. And then you plate that, and that's my extremely low carb, extremely carnivore, extremely keto, salt,
extremely delicious.
pork belly.
Yeah, really. Chinese 5-star spice. Yum, yum, yum.
Yeah,
Yes,
great with pork.
Do you do it upside down because the sort of the meat is a lot softer, so you cut through that, and then the harder bit you just cut through at the end? Is that the idea?
And that's exactly right. And you use a cleaver so that you can put your hand on the top of the cleaver and do that final through the crackling. So yes.
Just a quick question, Richard. Would you ever consider veganism?
I tried vegetarian keto for a month and I really enjoyed it. At the time, I was the only way I would even contemplate doing it was if I knew that the following month I could have only carnivore. So I did a month of vegetarian. It was over a lacto vegetarian, so I had milk, dairy and eggs as well. And then I did a month of pure carnivore. To be honest, I enjoyed the vegetarian more than the carnivore.
Really?
Because I like cooking and I like learning new things, and I learned a lot of new things when I was focused on this new framework was only eating vegetables. So there was that, but then I enjoyed both, but ultimately I prefer to be an omnivore. So I'm mostly carnivore with a little bit of vegetable. So with this particular meal with the pork belly, what I'll do is I'll have some keto coleslaw on the side, which is essentially just cabbage sliced very finely, capsicum or bell peppers in America sliced very finely, and mayonnaise, a little bit of celery salt, and that's you want your mayonnaise to have a little bit of vinegar in it, so it's kind of tart, and that tartness along with the fattiness of the pork go really well together.
Since you mentioned celery salt, I was reading about celery salt the other day, and I didn't realize this before, but it is one of the best anti-inflammatories.
Oh, is it?
Interesting.
Yes.
Wow.
Interesting.
So it also tastes fantastic. It's got quite a unique celery seed and celery salt. Super delicious if you haven't tried them, but they're also anti-inflammatory. It's good for you.
Yep. So sodium and potassium nitrate in celery salt. So it's not sodium chloride. So that's why that's probably why it's anti-inflammatory. So interesting.
Amazing.
So that's my meal. And look, I will eat this probably once a week. I mean, and you don't need a lot. If each chunk is about an inch by an inch, I may have half a dozen chunks, and that'll be an entire meal. So.
Brilliant. Love that.
Wonderful.
I think, like you said about the preparation there, a lot of meat cooking, I find it's really simple. It's just heat and time, isn't it? So slow cooking something or whatever you want to do with it. And I find that, vegetables, the prep time is quite different, isn't it, with veg compared to meat, which meat's always just delicious, I think, whatever you do, unless you
I think the other thing, though, about veggies is that there's so many different flavors and textures. So maybe part of the pleasure, Richard, was that you could have a ton of different things. There's a lot of variety in vegetables. Yes.
And I think there's an evolutionary basis for that, coming back to Dan's expertise, and that is that the difference between carnivore and vegetarian is also the difference between hunting and gathering. And so the hunter, you want to develop a strategy that guarantees that you'll get a meal by having a strategy that always works to get that one, to get a rabbit or to get a deer or whatever it is.
Sense.
And so I found in the month that I was carnivore, I lost my interest in variety. In the month I was vegetarian, I gloried in my interested in variety.
Interesting.
And so I think these two things reinforce each other. The fact that vegetables have quite a large variety is enforced by the fact that when you're eating vegetables, you kind of like variety. Whereas, you hear this story so many times from people who go carnivore that they, I just eat the same thing every day. I'm satiated. I'm not interested in variety. We have friends who eat pork chops and cream cheese, and that's the only thing they eat.
Yeah. I personally find I get palate fatigue. I really
I would slash my wrists if they.
Yeah, that's the thing. I love meat. I adore meat. I eat it mostly than anything else. But if it's the same meal all the time, I find it hard. In fact, Carrie, when you said about Ted Naiman's program, and you said you were told you had to eat lamb at a certain time or whatever, I don't know how you found that, but I'd struggle, I think, just to think, oh, really? Again?
I think so. One, I was in a crisis situation. With my brain. And so I was heavily invested in doing whatever I had to do. And luckily for me, I think there were 9 things I could eat. And one of them was lamb and one of them was hazelnuts. So I was like, okay. And I think lamb chops. Key, as Richard said about the, I'll do it for a month if I can then do carnivore for a month, is I knew it was 3 months. So it was like, okay, I can do anything for 3 months because I knew it was going to end. But as I say, I was lucky in that some of my very favorite things were on the menu. But I was also at the point where I was like, I will do anything to stop feeling the things that I'm feeling and to, get ahead of this. So I think that makes it easier. But I'm like you, Dan, and I think Carl as well. I could not. Carnivore, not only do I not feel as well when I do carnivore, but I get to the point where I don't even want to eat because I'm so bored with eating the same stuff all the time.
Yeah. But what are the extreme carnivores who say no spices even? I'm like, are you kidding me? No flavor? Like lamb is gorgeous, beef is gorgeous, but no, like
rosemary would be nice.
Rosemary and a coffee and a tea. Come on, what's life about, guys?
Yeah. I mean, I could actually become depressed about having no variety in my food. I mean, it's part of the joy of life for me is experiencing new flavors and trying new combinations and the different textures, and it's just part of life's joy to me. I wouldn't want to be without that.
Yeah,
I think part of the obsession lately in the low carb movement about a high protein diets is that you do get bored of the food, and protein is an inadequate source of energy. It's the third, biochemically, it's the third source of energy. It's what we use when we absolutely don't have anything else available, and it's quite nauseating because you produce a lot of ammonia when you metabolize protein for energy. If you're wasting protein for energy, you're not using it for what really it's optimally designed for, which is essentially building enzymes and building structures. So it's a hack. For a lot of people say, well, if I eat a high protein diet, all of a sudden I don't eat so much. Yeah, and for some people that's a value statement. I don't find it to be a value statement personally.
I just learned something then, Richard, because I was going through after speaking to Ted Naiman, I went through a higher protein month, 2 weeks. And my wife said, your breath could cut glass. I mean, so to bring you into the Greef household of the stories we have. But also my peas were a little bit smelling as well.
Like an alley cat.
Yeah. And I was like, God, that's strong, isn't it? Blooming heck. So that's what's happening. Ammonia is created by the breaking down of protein.
Yeah. So
just hang out with Richard, you'll learn all sorts of stuff, man.
Now, essentially, when you turn protein into ATP, into energy, you have to get rid of the nitrogen compounds in it. Protein is not purely carbohydrate; it also has nitrogen, sulfur, selenium. Atoms as well that all have to be gotten rid of. So the sulfur compounds in some of the amino acids gets turned into hydrogen sulfide, rotten egg gas, and then the nitrogen compounds get turned into ammonia, which is quite toxic at high levels in the body. That's
that's where rabbit starvation comes from. And essentially what we do is to safe that so that it doesn't cause damage. We turn it into something called urea and we pee it out. So urea is so named because it was first identified in urine. But it's essentially that it's a highly polluting form of energy, fuel for mitochondria. So
wow, didn't know that. Fascinating. Well, should we move on to our next recipe? I think we'll stick with the chaps because Carl's got something going to be a good sort of main course thing as well. So what are you feeding us today, Carl?
All right. Well, a few years ago, I bought a Traeger smoker. And Traeger's the brand, Traeger.
Are you getting sponsored by them?
I am not. I knew that was coming.
No, you got a T-shirt with it on, and now the lights.
No.
Nobody owns Carl Franklin.
No.
Carl is not sponsored by anybody or anything.
Well, anyway, so I got this on the recommendation of some friends who did some serious barbecue. The reason I like it is because it uses wood pellets and it has a temperature control. So essentially there's an auger that brings the pellets to the fire pit where they get, where the combustion happens. And the faster they go into that fire pit, the higher the temperature. So it can control the temperature ish, within 10 degrees with the, by changing the speed. So it's good. At the very low end, I think it's like 165 degrees or 150 degrees. And then you can go all the way up to 450. And at the lower temperatures, there's more smoke. At the higher temperatures, there's no smoke. Anyway, Traeger.com has recipes. And this is one that I found works really well. It's slow smoked and roasted prime rib.
Oh,
and we can publish the link in the show notes.
Yeah, let's do the show notes. Yeah,
I'll just put it in the chat right there. And so this is 15 minutes of prep, 4 hours of cooking time. So,
love it.
Yeah, you set the Traeger temp to 250 Fahrenheit and close the lid for 15 minutes. And then they say trim the excess fat off the roast.
Losers.
What are you doing? Yeah, right.
That's the good bit.
Yeah, I know. And then you basically take some salt, pepper, chopped thyme, and chopped rosemary. Carrie can tell you the difference between fresh herbs and dry herbs. Dry herbs are generally stronger, but fresh herbs just have a wonderful freshness about them. But you're smoking it, so I'd probably go with dry herbs. What do you say, Carrie?
Yeah, I mean, fresh herbs are very delicate, so you're gonna kind of trash them unless you put them in at the end. But if you put them in at the beginning, you really want to use dry herbs. Then the ratio is 1 tablespoon of dried herbs equals 3 tablespoons of fresh herbs.
Yeah.
So you also need a lot less.
My rule of thumb is if I'm cooking, I use dry herbs, and if I want to freshen up or put something on a salad or something fresh, then I'll use fresh herbs. All right. So we're going to use a meat thermometer and stick this roast in, which is about 8 to 10 pounds, 4 bones, something like that. But of course, you're smoking it. So it might take a little more time if you have a larger roast, but that's why I use a thermometer. Put a thermometer in there and you cook it at 250 until the internal temperature reaches 120 Fahrenheit, which for an 8 to 10 pound roast is about 4 hours. What'd you say, Richard?
I was making a joke about you using Fahrenheit.
What is that?
Yeah, because in my country, we use Fahrenheit.
Richard, what the hell's a herb anyway? I don't know. Have an H at the beginning of ours.
Yeah,
no, you can't say you can't. If you say herb, they think you're.
Thank you. That's better. Let's move on.
Backwards.
Oh, do they? Oh, because you pronounce all the letters in
Herbert.
words. Okay.
And Richard, by the way, the word herb starts with H.
H.
I learned that very quickly when I moved here and asked for herbal tea and it was like something the cat dragged in. So I didn't do that again.
All right, so
Pass me the knife. Yeah. All right, let's keep
49
going.
Celsius. 49 Celsius, Carl.
all right, cool.
Okay,
So,
that's quite cool. Yeah.
yeah, at 120 degrees Fahrenheit, you take it out, and because it's Christmas, I'm going to bring it inside, and I'm going to let it rest for 20 minutes. And the recipe here says then increase the grill temp to 450. However, at that point, it's an oven and it's outside. So I do this second half inside in my oven. And then you basically put it back in the oven. You put it in the oven for 15 minutes. You might want to rotate it until the temperature reaches 130. And then you want to let it rest, and you have to do this 30 minutes before you dig into it. Let it rest. Just cover it, tent it with foil, and it will reward you immensely. And by the way, you have no doubt collected all the drippings, which you're going to make a gravy from.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
That sounds
You
good.
You could probably do this in an oven, same
You could.
temperatures in an oven,
Yep.
and then to get the smoky flavor, you could do it. You could put it on a barbecue with a smoke box on the barbecue, and just to get a smoke.
Or if you really want to
to
cheat, they have a product in America called Liquid Smoke.
Oh dear.
Which no, so
Nice.
Dan, you're kind of screwing your face up. And I remember when I first discovered liquid smoke, I assumed that it was just like this jar full of like noxious chemicals. It is literally liquid
water.
smoke. It is smoke that has been condensed into
But let me guess,
liquid.
Carrie, you turned up trying to play it cool as a Brit abroad, and you went, "Can I have some liquid moke, please?" What's on about, girl?
So I was pleasantly surprised, and I actually use liquid smoke a lot. I don't have a smoker, but I use liquid smoke a lot, and
You
it
do have a
is
smoker.
well
I
at
gave
cousin
you a
Carl's
smoking
house.
gun.
Oh yes, that's true. I do,
If you're
and
not
I
using
have.
it, I'd like it back.
I have the dome and everything. I just haven't got to it, but I will. So yeah, liquid smoke is not as obnoxious
It's
as
a real
it
thing.
sounds.
It's not like it's not made in a factory just out of chemicals.
But look,
Yep.
you could live in a city in an apartment where you don't have the luxury of a smoker. There's no place to smoke. That's perfectly okay. Just douse
you
a
can
little
still
liquid
do it in
smoke
oven.
on the outside of your meat and put it in the oven.
Yep.
Love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. Right. Thank you, Carl. So we've got pork and beef, and it's going to be a fantastic feast. But what about afterwards when we've got that little bit of space left, which we need to fill? I don't think we will after that. But
I think
what space?
pudding.
Yeah, nice pudding. Gavna. Chim chim cherie. Carrie, would you like to provide some lovely, tasty dessert for us?
Yes, I would. I recently I decided that the keto world needs some decent chocolate desserts, so I made a milk chocolate espresso tart. I'll put the link in the show notes, or rather, Dan will.
Yeah, I'll do that for you. If you share that with me, I'll make
We'll
sure they
put
get
the link
saved.
in fact, I'll do that right now.
Yep.
So people
Thank
can
you.
go and read all the minutiae about it, because I'm not going to go through it all. But it's essentially an almond flour crust, like a no bake. This is a no bake tart. It's essentially an chocolate almond flour no bake crust with a milk chocolate espresso ganache filling.
Ooh.
Oh, that's terrible.
So
I'm looking at the
completely
pictures. I
unsafe.
think I need to make this.
Unsafe for human consumption.
We're having it later, guys. Remember? Okay,
Yes.
Carrie.
So
Tell us
it
more.
looks, so Richard's looking at the pictures, it looks very kind of Parisian patisserie, like, oh my goodness, I could
does.
never make that. But it's really easy, which is why I said it's essentially a no-bake almond flour chocolate crust with a milk chocolate coffee espresso ganache in it. So it's actually very simple to make. And
Great
it is
pictures too,
like
Carrie.
wild. It will make you forget that keto is even a thing. Of course, it's all keto ingredients. The other thing that I I do a thing called the Ice Cream of the Month Club because keto ice cream is my little passion. So I do this a monthly club where I make new recipes and then I explain the backstory to them to the members. When I was playing with making frozen key lime pies in the summer, I kept getting really frustrated with the crust part of it. Mm-hmm. Because it kept when it was great until it was frozen, and then it would just felt kind of British claggy. For Americans, kind of soggy, kind of damp, but just the texture just wasn't right.
The American word is blech.
It was like that.
Claggy.
Claggy.
Oh, claggy. Yeah, okay.
Right.
Claggy,
Stodgy.
So I'm bringing this part out because a lot of folks are going to read this recipe and go, okay, seriously? I've already had people pinging me on social media going, really? I do that? Well, this is why. In the trying to figure out how to stop my frozen key lime pie being claggy, I came up with this process whereby I toasted the almond flour in a skillet or, frying pan and toasted it until it was golden brown and then used it to make the crumb crust. Absolutely transformative. It just made a complete difference to every kind of no-bake crust there is. So if you're reading the instructions and you're going, I'm toasting my almond flour in a skillet or my ground almonds, yes, you are. And it makes an amazing difference. But then you're just adding your sweetener. I used erythritol because erythritol tends to be more crunchy, so it would keep the tart crust more crusty. Cocoa powder and then melted butter is what holds it all together. And then you're going to put that in your loose bottom. You do need a loose bottom pan for this.
Carrie, it's a family show.
I've got a loose bottom.
Well, Richard's already steamed his bottom, so
I did steam my bottom.
He's got a steamed bottom. I've got a loose bottom. So you do need, because that'll make it easy to get out. So you're going to put it in there. Very simple. All of you can do that. And then you're going to pop that in the fridge until it firms up. It's just, of course, the butter firming up is going to hold that all together. And then you're going to make a ganache. But you're going to make the ganache, you're going to steep the heavy cream with your ground coffee. You're going to put your ground coffee in warm, heavy cream to steep it so that all of those coffee oils come out into the cream and flavor it. And when that's ready, you're going to basically add, there's vanilla extract in there, a bit of sea salt to really make the flavor pop, and your chocolate chips. Obviously, now do not use 100% unsweetened chocolate chips. Find a brand of keto or, no sugar chocolate chips to do this. If you do it with the 100% unsweetened chocolate, you will have a disaster. So please don't do that. So buy the brand you like. Here in the States, we have Lily's, we have Choc Zero, there's probably other brands that I don't even know about.
I prefer Choc Zero to Lily's.
I do too. In taste wise, Choc Zero, and Choc Zero is what I used to make this.
Yeah.
But don't use the 100% unsweetened. You'll be very sad. So you're going to mix your hot coffee cream and your chocolate chips to make it a ganache. Then you're going to pour that into your crust. Some. Yum.
You're sponsored by a lot of people, Mr.
I know.
What is this product placement? This is like the BBC. We don't do that here, okay?
You're going to have to put that blurry thing over that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So you're going to put your ganache into and it'll flow out and it'll just look beautiful. And then you're going to put it back in the fridge for about 4 hours until it's set.
Which is the perfect time for when your meat is then smoking. You've got the dessert and the meat.
Yeah.
One's doing one thing, one's the other.
Exactly.
Working towards the same glorious conclusion.
But you can also, this is cool because you can make the crust 2 days ahead of time. and put that in the fridge and have it ready, and then just do the cream bit the next day or whatever. Keeps very well in the fridge. If Richard's looking at the pictures, that I piped cream on top, but what I did to make it super special is I added some, I have forgotten the term, espresso powder, which is different from instant coffee. So I added a tablespoon of espresso powder to the heavy cream, and then I whipped it to make this beautiful coffee-coloured, intensely coffee-flavoured whipped cream. And that's how I decorated it, which just, and a coffee bean on top and a bit of chocolate drizzle, and it just looks like you're in a cafe in Paris.
I said it before. I don't know if you heard me, but the photos look amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, they are stunning pictures, Carrie. Amazing.
Thank you.
So that is your kind of skill as well, isn't it? Photography is one of your many skills alongside the cooking, right?
That's what I get paid more for than anything else these days. So
I get paid for a lot of stuff. Doesn't mean I'm very good at it, but but you are, and that's the important thing. So, Carrie, that's an amazing recipe. Thank you. I love it. But
it is very simple. I just want to encourage people to, don't look at the pictures and go, I could never do that. It really is very simple to do, and you could make one that looks just as good as that. Now, I did this also in a rectangle tin, just to show people that there's other shaped tins, but you can do it in a round, you can do it in square, you can do whatever shape you want to, or you could even do it in little individual. If you have more time and to make the little individual, you could do that. I just use the rectangle just to give you another option of doing it. But if you don't have a rectangle, just use a round one. Just make sure it's a loose bottom pan.
Nice.
Love it. So I feel like I'm cheating a little bit here because I've had 3 amazing recipes, and I've just got a little tip really for Christmas Day food.
Okay.
Do you ever kind of feel like, well, this is how I feel anyway, on keto, you miss out on the crunch? Like maybe the crackling would do the job for you, Richard, the way you did the pork belly. But I find the crunch of carbs is something that I do miss. Yes. And so I'm a big cheese eater. And especially like after a meal like this, I've obviously got a lot of space left over after all that meat and loveliness from Carrie there. But I find just toasting some pumpkin seeds and having that with your cheese is as good as a cracker. I find that's been an absolute life changer. And so I might get some cured sausage meat and chop it up myself, and then just toast off some pumpkin seeds, put it on the plate, and just literally eat it with the cheese, and it gives you that lovely crunchy feeling when you're eating it. So that's my top tip, which is a bit of a cop-out after all of that. Let me explain. You make the skillet or the pan hot about degrees, and then you do that until just before it's black. You just stop it then and then put it on your plate, and there you go. That's my recipe. Okay.
Nice. No, I'm going to try that. Sounds good.
It's definitely worth it.
I still have Foxhill Kitchen's crisps.
I was just going to say, there's another product placement opportunity here from Carl and I.
I know.
We are very lucky that Julie, a friend from Foxhill Kitchens over here in Vermont, has just made these crisps, and they're like the best thing ever.
They're the best cracker.
They're the best thing
so
ever.
You're ahead of us in the States. I don't know about Australia, but in Europe, we seem to be behind America with regards to new products. So hopefully we'll get that here one day because that sounds good. Yeah.
I know that she would be open to having a UK distribution center.
There you go.
Maybe you two ought to talk.
Yeah, I'm actually making this right now next to a toilet that way, a laundry room that way, and a massive warehouse that way. So maybe that massive warehouse, not the toilet, let's leave that. Maybe the warehouse could be the answer to that.
Right.
And also, did you know, dudes, that my mince pie won? I didn't win anything, but it got a name.
I saw that.
Yeah. But it's actually unhealthy. Right, so let me explain for listeners. So my mince pie is now marked 9 out of 10 for the most tasty, healthy mince pie by this national newspaper. But it's only a 5 out of 10 for health because you'll love this. It's quite high in saturated fat.
Suet and lard, right?
It's just the almonds it's made out of, and what else do you use in it? Butter. That's it. But because I understand it's a dietitian, so dietitians are trained in a certain way. We don't have to go to all that here. But I thought, well, actually, someone said to me, but the fact that it's like the tastiest is the best thing, right? Because Nobody is eating a mince pie for health reasons in this country. But if you've got the tastiest keto thing on the menu, then you're laughing. And it's been amazing. So, yeah, that happened. Was it last week? Yeah. So,
congratulations.
Great. Yeah, congrats.
Thank you very much. So, that's the end of our first part where we've got the meal sorted out. We're now going to just check. Are you okay for time, everyone, to do this quick parlor game about truth and lie? Yeah, is that okay?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, everyone's up for that. Okay. So we're going to go to the next part of our episode now. So we were talking previously about what we're having for Christmas dinner, and I think you can all agree we're going to have a fantastic feast.
Oh, yeah.
Has anyone got a bad joke to tell? Has anyone thought of one since we've been talking?
I have another one.
Go on, Carl. Of course you do. Two product placements came into a bar. One was this product, one was that product. This is far better at half the price, or your money back guaranteed.
What do you call a reindeer with no legs? With no eyes?
Why are you picking on the deers? Is it no idea?
Yeah,
I mean, idea. I don't know.
What do you call a reindeer with no eyes and no legs? Still no idea.
Okay, that was funny.
What do you call a reindeer with no eyes, no legs, and no genitalia? Still no effing idea.
Family show, Carl. All Disney all the time.
It was going so well, and then suddenly you just descended into that filth.
You know the difference between beer nuts and deer nuts?
No, go on.
A letter?
Beer nuts are $1.49 a pound, and deer nuts are under $1.
Nice.
Good. Let's move on there. So there you go. Some bad jokes from Mr. Franklin again, involving testicles, but no product placement. So that is an improvement. We're now going to play beer nuts. Yeah.
Get your beer nuts today, folks. Beernuts.com. I don't even know.
And use the code Franklin for 15% off. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So we're now going to play Would I Lie to You? Which I think is a fantastic television show, and it's a great way to get to know about people. So we might find out by the end of this parlor game that maybe one of us has killed somebody, or maybe they're only lying about that. We don't know. So I'm going to just go through and choose someone randomly on my screen. So Carrie it is first, and I'd like you to tell us 2 facts about yourself. One is true, one is false. We then can ask you questions to try to ascertain which one is true and which one's false, and at the end you can reveal to us which one is actually true and which was the lie. So, Carrie Brown, over to you.
So I once paddled on a lilo, or airbed for Americans, up a crocodile-infested river in the Northern Territories, Australia, in order to get to a waterfall that you can't access any other way than paddling up the river or by helicopter.
I got a question.
Yes.
No. Whoa. No. This is my show. Ignore him. Carry on, and at the end you can have your turn, Mr. Franklin. Okay.
All right, fine.
And I have jumped out of an airplane 4 times, and on the 4th time, my parachute didn't open. So that was a bit of an adventure. But when I finally got it open, I landed wrong and I busted my ankle.
Anyone got any questions, Carl?
Why?
It's a game show. You have to ask the question, and then
no, that was the question.
Oh, sorry, that was the question.
Why are you going to see this waterfall that with this very dangerous?
Because I'd never seen it.
Because you'd never seen it.
Because it's there, Carl. Because it's like, why climb Everest? It's just there. That's what they say, isn't it? These outdoor types. Okay. Carrie, tell us about the aeroplane thing. What was wrong with your parachute when you jumped, when you did the jump?
It didn't. So when you're a new parachutist, you are attached. There's a little loop in the top of the parachute, and you are attached to the plane by like a piece of fishing twine and a piece of nylon. And so what happens is that as you fall away from the plane and the parachute opens, then the fishing twine breaks and you're let go from the plane.
Is that before or after your laundry comes out?
Oh, my laundry came out very much later in this scenario. But for reasons I don't understand, maybe whoever packed my parachute, whatever, it didn't. So when the string breaks and you're free, then it all untwists, but mine didn't. So you look up to make sure that your parachute's open. And I looked up and it was just a straight line. There was no canopy. So you have to kick in the opposite direction to put yourself in a spin to untwist the line so the canopy can open.
Did you flap your arms?
And if that doesn't work, you have a reserve parachute on your front. But I didn't have to deploy that.
You don't tell anyone about it, I suppose.
Right, you don't. Yeah.
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah.
And you weren't connected to an instructor. This was just you.
Just me.
In the air.
Where was it?
Going downwards at 9.8 meters per second.
Mm-hmm.
Where was
Kent, England.
Kent?
Kent in England.
I'm just going to ask the fellas in Kent now if that actually happened. Guys. They don't even know who you are. It's supposed to be a long time ago.
How did they get in your house?
I've been to Kent. It's a very lovely place to auger in.
The Garden of England.
If you're going to go splat, Kent is a wonderful place to do it.
Exactly.
Why?
I would choose that. Yeah, I'm in Cambridgeshire, which is all like mud, so you'd actually just like bounce here probably instead of going straight down. Yeah.
Why didn't you open your secondary parachute?
Because you're trying to see if you can fix your main one first.
Yeah, but at a certain point, the ground's getting closer.
Yeah, but you don't think it is, because when you're that high up, you don't get any sense that you're falling until about 200 feet. And then you suddenly go, oh, bother. There's ground.
So you jumped out of a plane 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
Did this event occur on the 4th attempt?
Mm-hmm. I did.
Was that the last attempt?
Never been since.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised either, no.
But I have to say, it was the busted ankle that made me go, yeah, I'm not going to do this again. Not the fact that my parachute failed.
Well, I was actually thinking about the dry cleaning bill for the outfit you're wearing, because if I was in that situation, that was going to be expensive clean, I can tell you that.
I would have just bought new underwear.
Yeah, you could always do that. Yeah, that's true. Where would you buy your underwear from, Carl?
It's the American thing. it's the American way.
Target.
Anyway, so let's talk about this airbed Lilo thing in the infested crocodile waters.
Don't you think Lilo's a much funner name for an airbed than airbed?
An airbed, yeah.
Is that because you lie low?
Yes, lie low in the water. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. So why were you on just a Lilo? Why not a boat or something?
Because you couldn't get a boat to the river easily, but you could easily get Lilos to the river. You had to jeep in. You had to jeep into the river.
Yeah. Okay. And so then you floated on this river to a waterfall.
I paddled. So I'm on the Lilo, front down.
In crocodile-infested waters.
With your arms in the water that could bite you at any time.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Well, most rivers in the Northern Territory would be crocodile-infested if they're close to the water, close to the sea. Yeah.
I don't have hard over questions for that. I mean, I actually can we vote now?
Do you want to vote? Okay, right. Let's go for just a quick recap then. So the first story was you were on a Lilo going through crocodile-infested waters, going to a waterfall that you'd never seen before. Just out of interest, was it a good experience when you got there, or was it just like beer cans and stuff floating around? Was it?
Oh no, it was fantastic, because there ain't a lot of people that go to see this waterfall. It was brilliant. It was lovely. Okay.
And then the second,
and I was actually very proud of myself because I can't swim. So
that's impressive.
How did you get that?
It might be a lie.
So you have to paddle. You had to paddle on your Lilo, back on your Lilo.
Usually rivers, the current goes one direction. You can go down river, but turning back.
I actually don't remember there being like a current that I'd noticed. But yeah, you have to paddle. You have to paddle back to the jeep.
Was it a vigorous waterfall? Lots of water?
Yeah, it was very tall too.
Okay.
All right, let's go for it then. I'm going to go with, I think the waterfall is true. That's mine.
I agree. I think that it sounds more impossible.
I
And
disagree.
that's why it's true. You disagree?
I disagree. No, I think that the skydiving sounds more reasonable than a tall waterfall that's vigorous in Australia.
Exactly why I thought it was false.
Yeah. I'm the same as Carl, though. I think it's, slightly less believable is probably more true. Okay, Carrie, would you like to reveal to us now which story is true and which is a lie?
I did paddle on a lilo up a crocodile-infested river.
Yes! Okay.
And I kind of cheated because the skydiving story is all true except that it was my third jump, not my fourth.
Oh.
Nice.
So we're all kind of winners in a way.
Yeah.
Or losers,
Yay.
depending on
So
how you
yeah,
look
so
at it.
the skydiving that all happened on the third jump, and then I never did another one.
I can understand that. Yeah. Well done, Carrie. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
let's see the
stupid.
photos. I didn't want to say that on a podcast, but well done.
Yes,
Let's just leave it as amazing, okay?
The paddling part was again especially brave or especially stupid because I still can't swim. So that was
You'd
that
learn
was
to swim very quickly if you saw a crocodile.
yeah,
I guarantee
and so the caveat is that it was crocodile infested, but they're saltwater crocodiles, and they're they're not the like 18-foot things that like could eat half of you in one mouthful. They're the littler 2-foot little saltwater things that really don't care to eat humans. So,
Well, there you go. Fantastic.
I still didn't want to meet one, but.
I'm surprised that shows you, though, doesn't it, that you might know somebody really well, but you don't know those stories from the past necessarily unless you play this game. So let's go to you now, Richard. And I hope you're not still a sore loser because you lost that round.
No, not at all.
Please tell us your two things. One is true, one is a lie.
So I have two facts. Fact number one is at school, I faced the fastest bowler of my generation. And the first ball, I clipped a lovely ball off my pads to the leg side that went to the boundary.
For you Americans, he's talking about cricket.
I am.
Right?
I am talking about cricket.
It's the original baseball.
Yeah.
I am.
Don't get me started, dude.
And the second fact is that my grandmothers are identical twins.
Whoa, mind is blown. Okay.
Your mother's father and your mother's mother and your father's mother are identical twins.
Correct.
Right. We've got to dive into that one first. So they're sisters who married two brothers. Now, hang on.
Not identical to each other.
Right.
Right.
Oh,
They're
right. Okay.
I was going to say, man, inbreed much?
The winters in
that would have explained a lot.
That is a remarkable level of inbreeding.
Wow. That's what I thought at first, and I'm from Norfolk, so this is what we do locally.
And my maternal grandmother is Tasmanian. For those who don't know, Tasmanians have a reputation for being rather inbred and having two heads and the like. So,
okay. So let's talk about this story then. So they're identical twins, but they're not related to each other, apart from the fact that they eventually related to you, right?
Yeah, I have.
That's believable.
I have four grandmothers. Well, I had four grandmothers have all passed
Wow.
away. So that when I lost my grandmothers, I had an identical human being, identical in all genetics to my grandmother.
Wow.
But in genetics only. I mean, that sounds weird. Almost like,
Genetics only,
do you remember?
yeah.
Do you remember 10 years ago when I told you that story? No, I don't. Yes, you do. You're the standing grandmother. Come on, get up on the notes here.
Exactly.
Did you call them both the same nickname, Gran or Grammy or whatever?
No, one was
No?
Nanny, and the the other was Grandma.
Oh, wait.
Okay.
I mean, okay. So I mean, like, let's take one set of twins.
Oh, and the others were aunties. The others were aunties.
Aunties. Okay.
Yeah.
Which technically, I suppose they were. I mean, that's fair enough.
Great
Let's just point out, identical twins are not the same person. Let's just make that clear. We're not saying that they're like a substitute person for the other person.
I grew up with a pair of identical twins. Well, one of them was identical, but we could never figure out which one was identical because they looked so much alike.
Oh my goodness. Well, my dad's a twin. And with a brother, and then he has a brother and sister who are also twins. So my grandmother had 4 pregnancies and 6 kids, which must be, full on.
Wow.
But actually, so these two of the twins, 2 of the sisters, actually married 2 brothers in another family.
Wow.
Yeah.
Identical twins? The brothers who are identical?
No, they weren't
twins?
identical. So it's the twins and married 2 brothers who weren't twins.
Right.
So, yeah. Okay, so I think I'm happy with that story. I don't know about you.
It's not too outrageous. It's believable.
Not too outrageous, is it? It was at first.
It's highly unlikely. It's highly unlikely.
True.
Twins are not that common. So.
Yeah, trust a scientist to know the odds. Yeah. What do you think, Carrie?
I think the cricket story is balderdash.
Oh, strong words. Ouch. Mm-hmm. So are you saying that he's just rubbish at cricket or rubbish at lying?
Maybe both.
Who's the cricketer who bowled to you, by the way? Is it Shane Warne or someone?
Craig McDermott.
Okay.
He was a fast bowler.
Right there, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Huh.
We went to school together for 5 years. So
now you call him Craigie in Australia or something, don't you? You like Craigie?
Kaz. We called him Kaz.
Crikey. Crikey, Kaz.
Now who's fake accent?
Okay.
Oh, crikey.
How good at cricket are you, Richard? Because you make it sound like, yeah, I got the boundary, but maybe you got the boundary all the time. I don't know. Maybe you are just a naturally good batsman.
Got to remember, he was an extremely fast bowler. It's a lot different looking at a bowler from the audience, from the crowd, bowling and than being in the crease. Being in the crease and the bowler's coming at you, you have 0.2 of a second to see where the ball's going and get the bat in the right place.
I mean, a lot of it is actually using the direction of the ball and just the bat's directing it. So you're not even hitting it, are you?
I'm impressed that he's using the right terms because I don't understand one of them.
Training and instinct.
Yeah. And by the way, how long is a cricket game compared to, for instance, in the States? I might be a bit shocked. A test match is up to 5 days, isn't it?
5 days, yeah.
As you can tell, it's played by gentlemen who didn't have a career, who could spend 5 days on a game and at the end of it say, it was a draw, sorry, guys, but we had fun. That's the main thing.
Gentlemen vagrants.
Yeah. Do you want to move to the vote, guys, or do you have any other questions?
I'm with Carrie. I think the cricket's BS. And I think that it was a convenient subject because he's really into cricket right now.
Oh, it's cricket season.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to explain what's going on in the cricket world for the, people who don't care?
Nah.
It's the Ashes, right?
He talked about it on Two Keto Dudes a little bit this week, last week.
Okay. Well, in that case, I think we should go for the vote. I'm going to go last. So, Carl, which one are you going to vote for?
I think that the cricket story is BS.
Okay. Carrie?
Yep. Cricket balderdash.
I'm going to say it's true just to be different. So I'm going to go with the cricket story is true and that your grandmothers are not identical to different families, twins.
So both are partly true. I did go to school with Craig McDermott. I did face up to him, but I'm so uncoordinated that I just stuck the bat out there and it went and he bowled me.
Yes.
So,
I'm going for Chinese food. I'm fed up.
For two.
but both my grandmothers are identical twins of different people. So
wow.
Okay.
Is that why you didn't have children? Because the chances of you having 10 sets of twins were really high.
God, sex 10 times. Anyway, in one lifetime. Jeez. Okay, right. Should we go to the next story? It's either myself or Carl. I'll let Carrie decide which one next.
Cousin Carl.
Okay.
Lie to me.
All right. Here are my 2 lies, as far as you know. I once flew to Vancouver, British Columbia to speak at a conference that was actually happening in Toronto. For those who don't know, Vancouver is on the west
They're not
coast
the same place.
Yeah.
of Canada, and Toronto is on the east coast of Canada. Second fact, I once drove halfway to Boston, about 50 miles from where I live, before I realized that my right front wheel was only being held on with one lug nut.
Wow.
Whoa. Okay. Questions, anyone?
How did you work out that your wheel was only on with one lug nut? Did it like come off and go flying down the road?
No, fortunately I pulled over before that, but it had a really bad wobble. When I started out, it was just fine because the lug nut was on tightly. But, 50 miles later, it started wobbling a little bit and the wobble got really bad. And I was like, what's going on here? So I pulled over and I discovered, not only is my hubcap missing because somebody came into my driveway and stole my hubcap and only left one lug nut on the wheel.
As a memento. That's a bit.
Yeah. Because they were being nice. Nice criminals.
Nice criminals. But you didn't notice that as you got into the car that the cap thing. I don't know cars.
No, it was on the right side, and I get in on the left.
Oh, of course. Unlike
your
me,
country.
I get in. Yes,
they drive on the wrong side of the road. There,
yeah, we drive on the right side of the road.
Whoa! Actually, do you know who invented the right-hand
Literally
driving? It was Napoleon Bonaparte.
Yes,
it's true. Before that, there wasn't really codified, but they used to drive mostly on the left because of the lance would be on the right-hand side. So if you're defending yourself with your weapons, you need your right arm free to whip somebody out of your way or whatever. Or if you're a knight, to lance somebody. And Napoleon changed it around to the other way around, and then the colonies decided to adapt to the French.
When I was first starting to spend time in England,
all of them.
When I was first starting to spend time in England for conferences and whatnot, I noticed that when I walked down the sidewalk, I would walk on the right side because that's what we do in America. And I was bumping into people left and right and their exasperated looks. And I thought, oh, yeah.
I didn't even know that. So we did the other way around. Wow.
Yeah.
Or do you mean you're walking around in London and it turns out it's Vancouver? Linking it to your first story.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question about that one then? So
sure.
How on earth did that happen? Because I need some explanation there. You can't just turn up in the wrong part of Canada that easily.
All right. So this was the dark years for me after my divorce, and I kind of checked out a little bit for a while. And I usually, thereafter, I would have my, what would you call her? An office assistant, bookkeeper, book my flights, but I was booking the flight. And the company that did the conference was normally in Montreal, sometimes never in Toronto, but sometimes in Montreal. But the last one they did was in Vancouver. So this time I got an email that says it's in Mississauga. I had never heard of Mississauga, and I figured it was outside the city limits of Vancouver, I assumed. So I bought my ticket for Vancouver and I got off and I got in the taxi line. And the guy said, "Where to, sir?" And I said, the Hilton in Mississauga. Mississauga. That's clear across the country, sir.
Is that a Canadian accent?
No, that's an Indian accent.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
It's the best I could do. But anyway, I got out of the car, the taxi, and then I had to walk. It was like it went 20 feet, pulled over, and I got out and walked the walk of shame back into the airport. And all the people in the taxi line are like, right? And then I called Richard Campbell, the other Richard that I was there speaking for conference, right? And I said, "Richard, I flew to Vancouver." And he laughs hysterically. And I said, "Now listen, I'm going to get another flight. I'll be there tomorrow before the start of the conference. It's okay. But just do me a favor. Don't tell anybody because it's really embarrassing. Okay?"
I would
goes,
tell everyone.
He goes, got it, buddy. No problem.
You got it.
So the next day when I walked
back there, buddy.
Next day when I walked in, everybody's like, Carl, how's Vancouver?
Yeah, that sounds plausible.
I think that's true. I think it's true. I think it's got to be true. But then the other one's very believable as well. But it's going to be really annoying if it turned out you had 2 nuts on your wheel. And it's like, oh, it wasn't Vancouver.
I guarantee you that I did not shade either of these. One is a complete fabrication and the other is absolutely true.
Okay, I'm going to go for the vote because I feel I don't. Unless you want to ask anything, Carrie, what do you think?
The Vancouver story is so Carl.
It's so true, isn't it? It's just so true.
So Carl.
Why are we wasting our time pretending that the wheel thing happened? And I honestly started this thinking that's not true, obviously, but now I'm like, no, it's definitely true. I'm going to go with that one. Carrie, the same for you?
Yeah, I will be floored if that wasn't part of Carl's life that he flew to Vancouver instead of Toronto. Sorry,
and
Carl.
Richard, what about yourself? You remember that one?
I agree with Gary. I would be floored.
So this is the first unanimous vote. Wait a minute. What about Dan? What does Dan say?
Oh no, I'm in Vancouver with you right now.
All three of you.
Yeah. Although I might be different, actually. No, I'm going to stay in Vancouver. So, which is ironically what you did by mistake. So, Carl, do you want to tell us which one of those was true?
I flew to Vancouver, eh?
Yes!
All right. The lug nuts was inspired by a real story. When I lived in California, one day I got out to go to work and I started pulling out of the driveway and I felt a pa-dunk, and somebody had literally stole my hubcap and all 4 lug nuts, but I never made it out of the driveway. Yeah.
So they weren't as courteous. Okay.
Yeah, they weren't as courteous.
So they took your wheel. They took the entire wheel.
No, they left the wheel on. They took the hubcap and left the lug nuts on the ground, but the wheel was still on. So as I backed up 10 feet.
Surprised them, yeah.
So when I lived in England, in a typical tiny little semi-detached house just outside of Reading, I had a very fancy Golf car, BW Golf, and came out one morning and everything looked normal until I went around the other side of the car to find that it was on bricks and the 2 wheels were gone.
That was your car? I am so...
The wheel.
I didn't, if I knew that it was your car, I would never have done that. But I went through a hard time in my life, so I can...
It was...
He had to have the steering wheel put on the other side. It was a big mess.
Right?
It was. Just out of interest, Carl, do you know there's a place in the UK which very unfortunately gets accused of things like this called Liverpool? Can you do a Scouse accent?
Paul,
no?
You better come down to the studio. John's gone freaking mad. He's like peeing all over the walls. We're trying to get him to calm down. But
you wouldn't have to say freaking.
Carl, let it be. Let it be, Carl. Let it be.
Gotta get down
Anyway,
here.
good. Surely the Beatles are more like that. Like, come into the studio, Ringo, and play the drums.
John's gone mad.
It's not the only one, Carl.
Have you guys seen Get Back, the new movie?
I
Peter
want
Jackson?
to see that. I saw a clip last night, actually,
Amazing.
with them composing Get Back, the actual song. And
Paul's literally sitting down with the bass and it's coming right out of his brain. Like,
it's amazing, isn't it?
Developing.
Yeah, I want to see that. That looks incredible.
But the quality is just, it's like you're right there.
Yeah. And the quality of the image is ridiculous because that lady sat there, maybe it's Linda, I don't know, but sat on the stairs in that kind of early 70s and late 60s outfit. But it looks like you say, it looks like it was filmed yesterday. It's so beautifully remastered.
Restored.
Yeah,
they enhanced the video from the original 35 millimeter. Another thing I heard they did was something they did for Peter Jackson's last movie about World War I.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah. So they took audio that was all recorded on a single track. And, because they only had 4 tracks or 8 tracks to work with, they would typically record, maybe a bass and a guitar and a vocal and another vocal all on the same track. right? So they had to mix it as they're recording, which is hard. But what the Beatles would do is when they knew they were being filmed all the time and recorded all the time. So when they had conversations that they really didn't want anyone out to hear, they would just start thumping on the guitars or whatever and just playing a little bit, so that in their mind, if we play over this, nobody would be able to hear what we're saying to each other, which might be embarrassing or whatever. But Peter Jackson and his crew found a way to extract each signal from a single track digitally with AI and put it on its own track, so you can hear all those conversations clear as a bell.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
I love the idea that like they didn't think like sort of 50 years later somebody would be able to do that to their conversations, but that is amazing. Wow.
I think that fact is probably true.
Yeah, I think
I'm voting that one's true.
What do they say? Can you pass the chicken drummer, please? Ringo.
No,
That's
one of the
Birmingham.
things that came out of it was George actually quit. George quit the Beatles. I'm quitting the band now.
I love George Harrison. I think he was
the most level-headed
Yeah.
Voice of reason in that whole thing.
But
They
also,
didn't know where they were going to play. They didn't
but out
know.
of all of them, his work for me is the best solo work after. I just
agree.
love,
Yeah.
Sweet Lord and all of that.
Yeah.
Right. Are you ready for my two stories? Because I've been
Sure.
sitting here listening to yours and I'm desperate to get these out there because
All right. Bring it.
they're both true or they're both false, or one, I don't know, I'm not going to commit, but see what you think. So the first one is my photograph, and no looking up online for this. This is cheating. You can do it afterwards. My photograph of a trophy is what is used on Wikipedia for an international sporting competition. And the second story is that once I didn't really meet him, but I saw Trump from a distance walking through a shop, and I didn't know what to shout, so I just shouted out, "Your hair," as he walked past. Ask away.
Well, even if
what
you didn't
sport?
shout your hair at Trump, I commend you for the sentiment.
But the irony is, it's probably not his hair, right? So, he went, "Your hair, it's not mine. It must be someone to somebody else." Anyway, any questions, guys?
So what sport?
Cricket.
Mm-hmm.
Cricket
Go ahead,
playing.
Richard. Grill him.
No, is it your copy of The Ashes?
So I went to Lord's Cricket Ground and I saw the cricket urn, the Ashes urn.
Yeah.
And I just quickly took a cheeky picture of my digital camera and I uploaded it online, not to Wikipedia though. And somebody then contacted me and said, "We'd like to put it on Wikipedia, please." And so my picture is of the urn on Wikipedia. That's taken by me.
Does it credit you?
It does. There are legal reasons why I probably shouldn't be saying this on a podcast because I don't know who owns the rights to the image.
Right.
But I took the picture, and it's if you go onto Wikipedia, don't do it now, obviously. You can actually look up the image, and you'll see there's a link to the website that I uploaded it to. So it's got my name next to it.
Wow.
You probably wouldn't recognize it as me because it says Daniel Greef, which is so square, but that's the same man. Yeah.
So there wasn't any confusion of you like being an athlete in cricket, right?
No, I didn't make up a
just a
story
picture.
about, actually there was one time when I was at primary school, I was always terrible at all sports and they put me on the outside of the field, behind the batsman where nothing's going to happen. And I was just standing there minding my own business. And we're playing with tennis balls, which fly miles when they hit with a cricket bat. Bearing in mind, we're like 9 or 10. And I saw it coming towards me. And this is a true story, which is not part of this show, by the way. And I just suddenly looked up and I thought, put your hands up to defend your face. And it landed in my hands. And of course,
Wow.
What did I do? Yeah, I meant to catch that. I just positioned myself perfectly. All I was trying to do is protect my nose from getting smashed to bits, and I just went, oh, it's there. Okay.
That's Now that's a true story.
That's a true story. And I was a hero for about 5 minutes.
I think so too. Yeah.
And now I'm 40 years old. I'm still talking about it on a live show. So clearly, it has 30 years later, it had a big impact on me. But that's not the story we're talking about here. So, so that's the cricket story. Do you want to ask about the Trump one?
Well, what's to ask? I mean, first of all, where did you see him?
Right. This is great. So I was in Harrods in London, and I don't know if you know for listeners in other countries, but it's a very expensive, like high-end department store. They have lots of big names who turn up there. And there was this kind of bit of a kerfuffle, which I suppose I don't know if that translates in other countries.
Translate that. It's kind of a big kind of a mess.
Yeah, a bit of a blah. That's a bit of a mess. So a bit of a mess at the door, a bit of a kerfuffle. There's something happening, a big event. There were like
we call it a cluster.
There were flashers outside the door, and he came in, and he came in. I didn't know it was him at the time, and I could see from a distance there was some celebrity. They had like all these security guards. It was ridiculous, like a cage of people around him, keeping him safe. A phalanx, yeah, which is Greek for a kerfuffle. So they got this guy in, and I couldn't see who it was at first because I was actually by the jelly counter, like jelly baby counter, and he
best
was
food hall in the world.
It's amazing, and if you know this place, like it's an experience to go and see the fish and everything. Yes. Oh, amazing. So he comes in, and as he's going past those, I could see he's a tall guy. He's rather. I don't know what you'd call like sunburnt orange, what the exact skin tone is, but he was that, and his hair was magnificent. I mean, if I was his age with that hair, I'd be very proud of myself, I guess. And I just got a bit excited and carried away because you know how when you see a celebrity, you just all rational thought goes out the window, and you're like, "Oh!" I said, "Your hair." Now I
would have thrown a shoe at him personally.
I hope that one was true.
And I just said your hair, and I thought, oh, I'm from Norfolk, where we say, we speak like that in Norfolk. And I thought your hair is how we'd say you're here. So maybe I got away with that. I don't know. I just went your hair, and that's all I could say as he went past. And he sort of looked to the side like asshole, and sort of just went past, and that was the end of that. Really,
Dan, it's a family show.
Sorry. Butthole. And
I said deer nuts, and you guys are like, "Oh."
You're quite right, Carl. I'm sorry. So they're my two stories. Now, which one do you want to put a wager on?
I'm ready to vote personally.
Yeah. Okay.
Are you guys ready to vote?
Mm-hmm.
I hope the Trump story is true, so I'm voting for that.
You sound pretty confident, all of you. I'm really surprised.
I think the Trump story is half true. I think you actually saw. No, I can't do that. I think you actually saw Trump, but you didn't yell out your hair.
I'm with you, cousin Carl. You're way too proper. You wouldn't do that. You're way too proper to do that. You wouldn't do it. But you might have seen Trump. Everything else might have been true. You did not yell out your hair.
That's what I think. So I therefore think your other story is true.
I can reveal now to you that the Donald Trump story is in fact a lie.
Yeah.
So, okay, my sister went to Harrods once. I haven't been to Harrods for like 20 years because I don't really care for it. But my sister was there and she saw Clinton come in. And exactly the same situation, but apparently his hair is fine. So she didn't say anything.
She said, "Your cigar."
Yeah. So moving on, family show. So Clinton came in and she saw him and that was it. So I kind of based that story on that one. But if you go to Wikipedia, you look up the ashes, it's my photograph of the ashes urn. And I get asked a few times a year, can I give that picture to different books, etc.? I tell you, do you want to share a screen? I don't know if you can do that from your end, Richard. If not, I can do it from mine. And people who want to write books always say, can they use my photo? I've checked with lawyers. Now, because it's used on Wikipedia, it's a free service. It's okay. But I couldn't make any money from it. But that's my photo of the ashes, which I thought when I saw your truth earlier on, Richard, about the cricket thing, I thought, oh, he'd love that. So I thought, as it's ashes season,
I do love that.
So can you confirm for us?
I can confirm Daniel Greef, Dan, and it was uploaded to Flickr. And yes, I am very impressed.
Very impressed.
So there you go. That's kind of like cricket royalty there. Everything associated with the ashes.
Absolutely. Very impressive.
Yeah. So I just want to say, I think we're kind of coming towards the end of our very long, fun show. I don't know about you. I've really had a blast today. That's in American, that means fun. I've had a blast today.
It's been great.
Kerfuffle.
I hope you've enjoyed it too. I hope we're going to go and have our fantastic meal in a moment there. So, I can just smell. Oh, I think the pork's almost ready. I think the ribs are almost done. Oh, even the coffee smell from the fridge is coming out strongly. So I think we're almost. Oh, is that roasting of pumpkin seeds I can smell? Oh yeah, fantastic! Yeah. Can you smell that? It's amazing. So
Carrie,
we're going to go and have a massive feast now.
Roast?
Yeah,
smoked roast. Carrie, you going to come over?
Yes.
Bring one of them lamb shanks.
Okay.
I'm going to drink myself now some liquid smoke. Oh, that's fine stuff. That is lovely. So anyway, so I just want to say though, a very happy Christmas to the dudes. So thank you, Carl. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Richard. It's been a fantastic show, and I wish you a very happy Christmas.
No idea.
Merry Christmas, Low Carb UK.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry
I've got a bad joke here. Hang on. What do you call a man with a seagull on his head? Cliff.
Good. What do you call
it?
Wait. What do you call a fish with no eyes?
Oh, you got a thing against eyes today, haven't you?
I'm a dad. I got dad jokes.
What do you call a man with a spade on his head?
What?
Doug.
Nice. Anyway, take care, dudes, and have a very Merry Christmas, everybody, and all our listeners. And we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.